Hi, I'm Spanish Joe of the St. Louis Union, and thank you for joining us on our very first St. Louis Vintage Baseball show. Cue the fanfare music. Okay, we're not that fancy yet, but that's not going to stop us from giving you every moment of the action of the 2019 season. Now, you see, we here in St. Louis are very proud of the St. Louis Vintage Baseball community, and it wouldn't have been possible without the team leaders in our area. Oh, and look, here's one of them now. It's Matt Scoopslurk, captain of the St. Louis Union.
Spanish Joe.
It's kind of weird seeing you in street clothes.
Well, that's kind of a weird thing to say.
Oh, well, here's a crazy idea. How would you like to be our very first guest?
I don't know what you're talking about, but okay.
You see, we have so much more to offer. We have the Goodwill match, and what players have been doing to get ready for this season, and much, much more. And you know that skip intro button? Yeah, that doesn't work right now. So we'll see you on the other side.
It's the St. Louis Vintage Baseball Show. I'm your announcer, Darby Newcastle. Tonight's guest, Matt Scoopslurk of the St. Louis Union. With our host, Spanish Joe Quick.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our very first show. Hey, and thank you, Darby, for that intro.
You're welcome, Joe. It's great to be here.
Hey, now, can we get a shot of Darby over here? Hey, there we go.
Hey, Joe. How was your winter?
It was pretty good, Darby, but like everybody, I was missing vintage baseball. Now, for those of you who don't live in St. Louis, this is the St. Louis Vintage Baseball Show, dedicated to covering the 2019 season. Now, we wanted to do this to show how we do our vintage baseball. Now, in St. Louis, we had the Perfectos, the Brown Stockings, the Cyclone, and our very own St. Louis Unions. Over the river, we have our pals, St. Charles Explorers, Belleville Stags, and the Alden Giant. And every year we play our friends, the Springfield Long Nine, Murfreesboro Clarks, from Danville, the Vermilion Voles, and the longest running club there is, they're older than my grandmother, the Rock Spring Ground Squirrels. Now, it wouldn't be a St. Louis season if we didn't start without playing the Goodwill match. And to tell us about said Goodwill match, we have the man, the myth, the legend, our very first guest, Matt Scoopslurk, the captain of the St. Louis Unions, who I heard has got a little surprise for us. Please clap. Have a seat. It's great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Good luck in the show.
Now, tell us a little about this Goodwill match.
It was actually Knapsack on our union team. He actually came up with the idea of having all the teams get together in March, and roughly about 8 to 10 teams. And we basically play a practice game and have a good time. We have some food after the game, and just an all-star game of different uniforms.
Now, you had the Goodwill match last month. The Stags hosted, and we had our cameras there to give us a little peek. Let's go look at the monitors.
Today's event, typically on St. Patrick's Day or around St. Patrick's Day weekend, is known as the Goodwill match. Not to be confused with Goodwill Industries, because the first time I heard about the Goodwill match, I thought, should I bring a box of donatable items? But Dutch made it clear to me that it's for spreading of goodwill amongst men and fellowship. And here in the St. Louis area, which encapsulates central and southern Illinois and the St. Louis area clubs, there's about a dozen teams that get together at the beginning of the season and at the end of the season. We dust off our shoes and get out here and do an exhibition match. It's an all-comers match. We've got probably 8 or 9 teams represented today. The farthest from out of town this year is Pickles from the Detroit Early Risers.
I got to come to the Goodwill match today because I met a few of the Belleville Stags last summer. They came up to our event at historic Fort Wayne in Detroit, and they were a fun group of guys, and they invited us up to this game. Thought that sounded like a lot of fun, so here I am. Our other teammates knew I was coming, and they're very jealous that I'm here and that I get to play some baseball today. We've sent a few pictures out to them, and they're already sending me messages back that they wish they were playing.
Anybody who's a vintage ball player that's in the area, we ask them to come out, join. We call off lines. Today we've got 4 teams playing on 2 different fields simultaneously. In times past, we've had just 2, sometimes we've had 3, and we metaphorically say there's 1 team in the field, 1 team at the plate, and 1 team on the coolers. We always have a post-match feed, part of the goodwill match, and what's most important for me is everybody sits down and breaks bread. Not only do we get a chance to play, enjoy the sunshine, have fellowship on the field, but off the field, I hold a lot of pride in hosting it. When you set your schedule up and you know you'll see most of the clubs once or twice a season, but sometimes certain guys won't be able to make those matches. This just is a good-natured event to not be as competitive. It's an exhibition match. You get a chance to see everybody that you may not normally see in the course of a season. You know, I think of Michigan with almost 40 clubs. If you had an opportunity to get several representatives from each team to come in for an exhibition match, how fun would that be? It has various purposes, not only just to spread goodwill, but give new clubs a chance to get out and get on the field for the first time, maybe take some practice cuts. It is kind of our spring training. It's a great way to bring everybody from a local area together.
Now we'd like to thank Rooster for that interview, and now Scoops, if I can call you that, what type of things do you do to finance your team?
We have dues that usually run about $35 to $50. We also do raffles. We raffle off Cardinal tickets. And then we raise roughly about $1,000, and that goes towards uniforms, hats, feeding the teams from out of town.
Well, you see, the reason I asked this question is because the Cyclones last season, they hosted a trivia night that was really successful. And to tell us about it, we have Bookworm.
The event was our second annual Greater St. Louis Baseball Historical Society Trivia Night. The purpose, the basic purpose is to raise needed operating funds for our organization, which covers things like field permits and insurance and equipment, uniforms and that sort of thing that we can't entirely cover with players' dues. This was our second year of doing the event. We've had roughly the same number of teams each time, 9 or 10 teams of 8 people each. So typically we've got in the neighborhood of 70 or so. So we did it last year. We kind of used the same game plan, put out the call for people to participate. We had pretty good participation from the vintage baseball community, in particular within our organization, their families and friends. We also put it out to the community and have some members of the community as well that have come. The other wrinkle this year was we decided that in addition to raising funds for our organization, we would also divert some of the proceeds from the event to Cardinals Care so that we would spread the wealth and put some funding toward an organization in the community that does a lot of good. In addition to the trivia, we had 10 rounds of 10 questions each in your diverse categories. It was not just baseball trivia. We did have a baseball category. And then in between that, we had a Dead or Alive game, a Baseball Hall of Fame edition. And we had a paper airplane throwing contest where people could buy a piece of paper for $1, make a paper airplane, and then we'd see who could throw it across the room and get it closest to a hula hoop. We had a couple of raffles for some items that were donated. We had a silent auction, worked with an outfit in Chesterfield that provides silent auction items, and also helped us to raise a little extra money. The first thing was finding a place to have it that was economical, that would not eat up too much of the proceeds. You know, we ultimately went with family connections, and one of our members, Carl Kreckler's mother, is a parishioner at St. Peter and Paul Church, and notified us about the facility there, and it was available for a decent price. Another bit of serendipity is Dave Moore on our team has a friend who is heavily involved in putting together trivia nights, Karen Zamarco, who was our MC for the evening, and she helped us a lot. She has a lot of expertise in putting these things together, was able to tell us what to do, more importantly what not to do. She helped us to put together rounds of questions, kind of vetted the questions that we came up with, let us know if we were too hard or too easy or whatever. So there was a lot of nice insight that she gave us to help make it more successful. So, you know, at that point then it's just a question of marketing it and getting people to come. And ultimately there's always this nail-biting period where you're wondering, are there going to be enough teams to sign up to do this? And then then you get a lot of late breakers, people who decide to come, and it always seems to work out. So it's, like I said, it's been encouraging enough for us to continue doing it. We're already planning on doing it again next year.
It's time for some St. Louis vintage baseball action!
Here we are for the halftime highlights, where we start at Forest Park, where Law Dog shows us the broken finger he got the week before, but doctors gave him the A-OK to play. The Brown Stockings hope to make it child's play against the Springfield Long Nine. That or rockabye baby into a state of hypnosis. We're here in the shadow of one of the remaining buildings from the 1904 World's Fair. Old Rooster knows better, but his momentum has him over the bag. Cool as a cucumber icebox, drives in the run. The Springfield Long Nine comes from the nickname given to Abraham Lincoln and 8 others who represented Sangamon County in the Illinois General Assembly. The Brown Stockings tested out the right side, but Old Scoop says, none shall pass. Hey, and he's a pretty nifty at the plate too. Is it Duke or Chris Hemsworth? Because he swung the hammer for a triple. Squeaky Knees just got a squeaky double, and his old pops, Creaky Knees, wants to get in on the action. Lightning decides to throw it in, but it looks like someone forgot to tell the third baseman. Another run for the Long Nine. The Brown Stockings play their games in Fenton, but it was underwater, so they had to move it to Forest Park. Looks like old Rooster out of Southern Illinois University in Carbondale just got himself another hit. It was a sharp one that just bounced past Flamingo. It went deep, but old Squeaky Knees couldn't make a squeak-free play. Sparky plugs one into right field, and Rooster hauls it in. As the day comes to a close, the boys are all smiles. No matter the score, everyone's a winner playing vintage baseball.
Hey, what happened to Joe?
Joe went out to do a special interview with Beans about his umpiring clinic. It's a grand idea. Can you tell me how it came about?
Well, we want things to go a little bit smoother with our umpiring, and there's a lot of rules to learn in 1860s baseball. You can imagine that it's the evolution, so it's something that happened 150 years ago. So a lot of rule changes, and we got together before the goodwill match to work things out.
Well, let's go to the story. Take it away, Spanish Joe.
Thanks, Darby. We're here at Belleville, Illinois at the Moose Lodge with Belleville Stags' one and only Beans. How's it going, Beans?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing good, too. So what was the workshop you put on today, and what spurred you on to do this?
The workshop I put on today was a umpiring clinic. It was to get everybody to know the rules, anybody that wanted to umpire.
So what were some of the challenges that vintage umpires faced?
Well, vintage umpires didn't have a lot of things going on back then. They didn't have to be in every play, but they had to call foul balls at once because it made the runners had to get back to the bag, you know, before the pitcher got the ball, they could play on them. So you had to call a foul ball right away. That's one of the most challenging things because some of the guys, they don't call them right away, and then the runners are sitting there not knowing, you know, whether to get back to the bag, whether it was fair, whether it was foul. Being able to say it loud enough so that the people can hear it, that's the other thing. And then there's a couple rule changes that just came about that we've been discussing that actually make it so that on a fair foul, which is where the ball used to land, it's not necessarily the case. Now the rule has been found out that that wasn't necessarily the case back in those days. It was where the ball was touched. So that's kind of the big thing.
So what are some qualities you guys look for finding a good umpire?
Well, it's not so much the qualities, it's the person that wants to make sure that he's in the game, that he knows what the rules are, and can learn the rules, and actually can converse with the players, ask them what's going on. He has to keep control of the game, but he doesn't really say a whole lot. I mean, he's there, but he's not there. You know what I mean? Yeah. He has to make the calls when it has to be made. And there are some guys who are a lot better at it. It's nice if they know the rules ahead of time, but that's not necessarily the big factor. We can teach them the rules.
So we're going to post the video out online, and we're going to post the handles as well. What should people know before they watch and read about it?
Well, basically, they should just know that this is not necessarily the way that the whole game was played back then, but we're trying to make this so that it's a replication of the game. To teach people that come out and watch the game what really happened back in those days. The rules are quite a bit different, to be honest with you. But if we get people to watch this and understand that this is to try to tell people how the umpiring people, you know, actually handle different situations, it would be a lot easier. I mean, they don't have to have a big knowledge of it, but being able to watch it and then see what's there, that will be the big thing.
A final question, is it umpire or arbitrator?
It is umpire.
Okay.
There was a qualification, you know, a few years back that they said everybody was using the word arbitrator. It's not an arbitrator, it's an umpire. Arbitrators, basically, they were called that back in the early 50s, and then about 57, 58, they turned it to umpires. So,
well, that's good to know. Glad we got that cleared up. And this has been another interview on the show. Back to you. Hey Joe, did a great job. Now, how many games are scheduled this season?
We schedule 40 games this year, and we would usually do 50.
Now, why'd you cut back?
Make the games more meaningful. There was a cluster of every game every week, and this just helps out the flow, and quite honestly, it keeps us healthy.
Now, last year, all the team leaders gathered in St. Louis for the scheduling meeting, hosted by Lightning of the Brown Stockings. And we had him there to tell us all about it.
We hold the St. Louis scheduling meeting for the regional team to be able to get together, go over the rules, go over any issues or problems that we have had the last year, and start working on team having festivals, special events, and working on home and away schedules for the following year. It's been at New Calgon for about 8 years. The company has allowed us free use of the facility in order to get everybody together, and we generally get about 20 to 30 people come in and work on the schedules. Before I got involved, it was always held with the ground squirrels. The ground squirrels held it up in Decatur, Illinois. Droopy Drawers held it, and he asked for a volunteer to take over, and I took over from them. This time we had 16 teams show up, and the furthest team was out of Topeka, Kansas. We figured 2 hours for going over individual teams and special events, rules and violations and whatever needs to be addressed, and then 1 hour for the team to meet and figure out making their schedules put together. There's no problems in holding a meeting. The biggest thing with holding a meeting is finding a general location where people can meet, interact with each other, and have about 3 hours of space. It's a bonus if you want to provide appetizers and drinks. We generally want about 2 to 3 people out of each club, so there's different teams that are represented in the region. The biggest thing for us is just having that general meeting location. A lot of the players will go out, have lunch and drinks after the meeting's over and interact and talk about vintage baseball.
It's time for some St. Louis vintage baseball action!
Lafayette Square, the place where they first played baseball in St. Louis. And hey, there's vintage baseball today! Atlas shaking hands with, hey, isn't that Mayhem from the Unions? The St. Louis Perfectos take on their friends, the Lafayette Cyclone. I'll be honest, I don't know a lot of these guys' names, so I'll have to play speak for itself. Hey, Danger. I know his name. I know Bookworm. That was because we interviewed him for a story. A hit! A very palpable hit, Shakespeare. Man, there was a lot of good fielding in this game. I'll admit it. join us again next month for some more exciting St. Louis vintage baseball action. Okay, now, and you're not only here to talk about vintage baseball. I heard you're going to talk about your new album. Is that right?
Yes, it's going to drop this summer, and I really hope that everybody gets a chance and go out and buy it.
Okay, let's get a camera on this. So this is Scoops, the hits of the 80s. Okay, now I'm assuming it's the 1880s, right?
No, 1980s. I like to sing in the car, and I just decided to trade in my 401k to produce this.
Oh, well, I heard you're going to sing for us tonight, but that'll be after this video of the St. Louis Brown Stockings luncheon.
No, I'm ready right now.
Oh, okay, well, I guess if you get in place, we can do that now. Well, you heard it here, folks. This is Matt Scoops Lurk with the hits of the 1980s. Are you ready, Matt?
Strangers to love.
Hi, I am Tracy Thunder Wicker, and I am with the St. Louis Brown Stockings. The event that we put on is the Vintage Baseball Luncheon. We've been doing it about 5 years. Of course, it's for everyone. We want all families to come so that we can all get together and talk about not just about baseball, but about our families, about what's going on, and just be with each other. And the stories that vintage baseball players tell are incredible, and the laughs and the fun that we have, as well as enjoying good food and good drinks. It's just a great time for everybody. The benefits of having a baseball luncheon is so not only just to get all the teams together, but to maybe organize some things for the upcoming season. Also to network so that you can find out, okay, how did you do this last year? And, oh, I'd like to do that this year. Or where did you order those shirts? Or where did you order those hats? And so it's a way for everyone to figure out, oh, that's where you found that, and just kind of get ready for the upcoming season. And it's beneficial for everyone.
Well, it's been our very first show. We'll be back in a month with more VBB St. Louis style. We'd like to thank Rooster, Beans, Bookworm, Lightning, Thunder, and of course Scoops over here. Catch your breath. Oh, and make sure to watch Beans Umpiring Clinic at our website, stlvbb.com. We'll leave you with some scenes of Ed Buffalo Nichols' baseball table game exhibit from this past winter. And to everybody, thanks for watching.